All right, spawning here at the top right, we got our blue Zerg. It is LAMBO.
And in the bottom left, we have our red Protoss. It is Astrea.
All right, so the current score is 4-0 for Alpha X as
Woo!
as Zoun was able to defeat Scarlet 2-0, and then we followed it up with Ragnarok defeating TLO 2-0, which is pretty neat seeing TLO come back and play. Of course, Bjorn was supposed to play, but couldn't in the end, and so Shopify Rebellion did sub in TLO for Bjorn. But yeah, always pretty neat to see TLO, who is pretty much semi-retired in some sense, to kind of come back and compete.
Oh, definitely. Now, at the same time, it's also cool to see new-ish players, sort of making a name for themselves on the scene. I mean, Astrea, he's been playing for a while now, but I still consider him new because I'm used to players like Stats dominating GSL. But yeah, this is pretty cool. I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, like the majority of the top players these days have been playing for many years. Some of them over a decade by now. And yeah, Astrea, he's relatively new in that sense because he kind of popped off as a household name only a couple of years ago. So
yeah,
in some sense, yeah, you can kind of say that he's relatively new compared to some of the more old school players.
Right. I'm just waiting for him to do a Robo first build against LAMBO. That would just like I could die happy after seeing that.
Well, the day is young. That could definitely happen in this game. We'll see once. Well, actually, we'll see it right now. As, actually, going to be a Twilight Council. Now, that Robo still can come up if it's a DT drop, but...
Yeah, exactly. Although, I have seen some variants where, let's say instead of 4 DTs, it's only 3, but it's a little bit quicker. And then I've seen some pretty wild stuff where it's actually no Robo, and you just use a proxy pylon. I'm not sure if that's viable at this level, but I don't know. I've seen that build a few times.
Yeah, I think you gotta rely on the Zerg not scouting, and it looks like LAMBO has not really, went off to scout too much on the outskirts of his base. So in theory, yeah, I think Astrea could have actually planted a proxy pylon, but it looks like he's not going for DTs at the moment, as there's no Dark Shrine. Actually, going to be Glaives.
Yeah, what I love about StarCraft is that there are a lot of... Pretty much every strategy has been, tinkered with. And then that's not to say anything about, like, the non-professional scene where you've got crazy iterations of just wild compositions that should not work at the higher levels. But all in all, a lot of these somewhat, like, sort of traditional timings and these very well fleshed out, well thought out sorts of builds, even though their opponents are equally familiar with them, it all depends on the execution whether or not they get damage done, right? For example, Glaive Adepts have been around for a long time since Legacy of the Void came out, but even today they're still being used because depending on the execution, they can get a lot of damage done.
Yeah, absolutely. It all comes down to execution in the end. And we'll see if Astrea can execute this push out, this move out. This isn't super committed because there is a robotics bay being followed up. And gotta remember, Astrea and Zoun are on the same team. So we did see Zoun pull off a disruptor follow up against Scarlet. We'll see if Astrea copies that and goes for a disruptor follow up with War Prism speed. But for the time being, it looks like the Adept harass will commence. Doesn't quite get as much drones compared to... Oh, I might be counting my eggs that are a bit earlier.
Oh, these shades. Look at that shading back into the War Prism. Imagine how badass that is. Like, you skydive, you're dropping out of a plane, and then you teleport to where the plane is going to be, and then you jump back into it. That's just so cool.
Alright, there we have it. Adepts, or sorry, Disruptors on the production tab. No War Prism speed though. So, looks like it might just be a slow War Prism for the time being. But yeah, kind of a pretty much a similar build coming out of Astrea as we did see in the Zoun versus Scarlet series.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I think that there's a lot of potential here, and especially if Astrea is able to just keep LAMBO consistently on that low eco. I mean, look at this, it's 6 minutes, and LAMBO still is only on barely 50 workers. This could be pretty interesting.
Link's gonna get on top of this third base, but the real action is here at the third base of the Zerg as Disruptor. The first Disruptor doesn't quite get as much. But these Adepts.
However, it is, yeah, it's gonna buy enough time, sort of distract the Zerg long enough such that the Adepts can shade into the natural. They are gonna start shading into the main. Now, a lot of them are gonna start falling, but will they complete their shade into the main? They will, and they will find additional workers going down. So all in all, Astrea is ending up 5 workers ahead as a Protoss on Disruptor Tech. So this is, I mean, LAMBO is not too happy about his position.
Yeah, he's the one that is down in workers, and at this point, the Zerg theoretically should be ahead in terms of the work count. And there's no 4th hatchery to speak of as well to get that extra larvae to, you know, replenish those drones. And so, yeah, it looks like this build here, this Adept into Disruptor build, pretty effective.
Yeah, definitely. Disruptors are once again going to try to find some damage. Look at that, killing, wow, a lot of blood. Just, like, that kind of overwhelmed me.
Yeah.
Like, not only did the 3 queens go down, but I think also the extractor. So it was just like a huge explosion just because of 2 Disruptors. That was amazing.
Yeah. It was quite satisfying.
So I will say though, LAMBO, he's definitely not out of the game by any means, because he's going into Ravager sort of, well, I don't know if it's Ravager Ling Bane just yet, but simply because he does have Ravagers on the field, he will have a chance. You know, Stalker, Colossus, they are pretty good, but they're not the best against things like Lings and whatnot, so especially if LAMBO starts committing more to the Ling Bane, he does have potential to come back on a lower eco.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you can get the perfect Corrosive Biles and the perfect Banelings connection, then yeah, that could definitely turn the tides. And then if you look at the Astrea's army, I mean, the Colossus are gonna do pretty well against the Lings and Banelings. However, there are no sentries to speak of, so there's no zoning capabilities to kind of zone out the Banelings from getting on top of the army of Zoun. So if LAMBO does mix in some Banelings, then that could be pretty good. But as I say that, he actually doesn't quite have any Banelings on the field, nor does he have centrifugal hooks completed yet. So I mean, there's a big difference between slow Banelings and Banelings with speed.
Oh, for sure. Like slow Banelings, you know, you want to hug them, you want to cuddle them, they're cute. Fast Banelings, you're dead. Like, no way.
Yeah.
Okay, so it looks like LAMBO is going to be able to get all of the upgrades that he wants. He's going to work on Overlord speed, that kind of thing. And, okay, these Banelings are a little bit optimistic. I don't know about that. Oh, man. I mean, of course, props to Astrea for having good positioning as well. These 2 Disruptors, man, they're getting so much value just picking off queen after queen.
Yeah, and there's really nothing that LAMBO can do about it. I mean, he doesn't have any Vipers to adopt the Disruptors or anything.
Yeah,
yeah. Just doesn't have quite the army for it.
He's basically just trying to get up to a base minimum sort of composition. Whereas, you know, Disruptors, Colossi, these are all very high-tech units that can do a lot of damage. And look at that, Storm is going to be added in as well.
Oh, wow.
I really like Storm. I think that it's honestly kind of underrated against Roaches because, I mean, Roaches are slow. Even though they might be a little bit tanky, even if they don't die from a Storm, which of course they need 2 to die from, you know, they are softened up significantly, and who knows, maybe it just takes 1 hit from the Stalkers instead of 3, for example, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's going to be really crucial because, you know, the thing about Disruptors is you can counter them by getting on top of them and sniping them, but how can you do so without not getting stormed, right? You gotta, the idea is to get your Roaches and Ravagers right on top of the Disruptors, but if you can get blanketed with Storms as well, then is it worth it to try to snipe off the Disruptors? And then if you don't get on top of the Disruptors, then those Disruptors can zone you out. So it's going to be really difficult for LAMBO to engage the army of Astrea with that many splash capabilities.
Yeah, now he is setting up a surround, which is pretty good, but the thing is that surround is going to catch the Protoss over on the high ground, so this is not going to be looking so good. Look at that, excellent Storms, basically costing LAMBO all of his Banelings. I don't think he's too happy about that. Archons are going to reinforce as well. So there is basically all of the splash. Like, this is absolutely ridiculous right now. Now the Protoss army is going to start moving over towards the 5th base. I don't think LAMBO is actually going to try to contest it. He's too busy dealing with a Warpin on the high ground as well. His Lurker Den is only about a third done, and already all of these main Zealot forces are going to start costing him. As well as the Stalkers, he can't really find a good engagement angle. So things are not looking good for LAMBO right now.
Yeah, it's kind of being reflected on the supply there. He's dropping in the supply. Takes another huge storm there. And yeah, these Colossus in the back still standing tall. As Astrea are going to go ahead and march on forward into the pocket base, getting some additional warpins. And there's just really nothing here left on the ground for LAMBO.
Yeah, this is pretty unfortunate. GG is going to be called. Astrea is going to bring Alpha X up to 5-0.
Going to take place on Waterfall for game number 2. And of course, in the last game, Astrea utilizing the Adept into Disruptor drop play, which was really similar to what Zoun did against Scarlet. Now, when Zoun did it to Scarlet, it was on this exact map that he did it against Scarlet too. So I wonder if do you think Astrea is going to pull out that same strategy, that same build, or do you think he's going to change it up?
You know, it's hard to say. My gut feeling, which is basically all I have to go off of, is that he's going to change it up. He's going to go for something else. Maybe he's going to go for a charge all in. Or maybe, I think what's actually pretty likely is he's going to take a page out of Hero's book. He might go straight into Blink.
Oh.
So that's going to be my guess.
So like a Blink timing attack of some sort, or you just think it's going to be defensive?
Knowing Astrea, I think it could be defensive. You know, just get up to a 3-base economy and then go for a later timing with Blink.
Okay, yeah. I can see that.
Just watch, it's gonna be DTs, and then we're both gonna be
Well, we do have that robotics facility, and there's 150 gas. Yep, the ETs. You called it. And,
oh, okay. Cool. Very nice.
Yeah, and you know what? I love it because what does Astrea have to lose? He's up 0-5 already for his team. There's really nothing much he can do to really screw up his team, because they already clinched the series. So you know, might as well go creative and just have fun.
Right. Now, of course, ideally, StarCraft would be fun all the time, but as I'm sure many of our viewers know, it's, it gets tough.
Oh, yeah.
So,
especially when you're on the 10-game losing streak, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's how many hours is that? Like, it could be literally just a full day of losing. So of course it's gonna be bad. But I don't know, Snoopy. Recently I started laddering on Protoss, and really I'm trying to tell myself that hey, MMR is just a number. Like actually, you know, and what matters most is whether or not I'm learning and actually developing skills from it. So I don't know. That kind of helps with the tilting sometimes.
Yeah, that's actually a really great mindset to have, and it's really difficult for players to get out of the mindset of the MMR and just playing games just to improve.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I had a friend who peaked at 5.1k as Protoss, and they really wanted to get to GM. And so they started doing all these crazy one-base builds, but the thing was, they just went on a severe losing streak and dropped all the way back down to something like 4.3k. And they didn't really learn anything because they weren't applying their skills to their laddering. So,
oh man, that sucks.
It's definitely a long haul type of thing. You know, you don't want to try to play for the instant gratification.
Yeah, it's even tougher when you're that close. But,
yeah.
So
yeah. Yep, exactly. Now, I don't think our DTs could say the same. They haven't really found any sort of damage. Lambo just crossing his T's, dotting his I's, making sure that he has detection. All in all, pretty solid play, and it looks like he will be doing a follow-up counter push, which I really like.
Wow.
Wow, that Chinese voice line is terrifying.
Yeah, that was quite deep, actually. Deep voice.
Yeah.
Alright, looks like Lambo is going to go ahead and commit in. And go ahead and go for a Roachling Ravager push here. I think... I don't think the Queens are here yet.
Honestly, it's kind of hard to say. I mean, a lot of probes are falling, but the thing is the Archons are still standing strong over in the back of the mineral line, and these roaches are starting to fall apart. Like, it will be a hold, right? But at what cost? So I think Lambo, if he chooses to, it looks like he is choosing to, he can just start streaming reinforcements across the map because, of course, Astrea is going to start having trouble keeping up. Now, as I say that, he does have enough Stalkers to finally push back the rest of the Ravager Roach. So, yeah, I don't know. And actually, looking at it, Astrea is still ahead on the probe count. What happened this game? I'm so confused.
Yeah, 17 probes going down. You would think, oh, this is great for Lambo, but Lambo, he invested so much larva into his army that he did not drone up, and so he was sitting at a very low drone count. Enough to saturate 2 bases, but not quite fully saturate 3 bases. And, he took 17 pros, which does even up the worker count. But as a Zerg, you want to be ahead in the worker count, not even with the Protoss. And now that he's pretty much still at 3 bases, 3 hatcheries, no 4th hatchery to speak of. Doesn't even have any workers to saturate a 4th base if he wanted to. Looks like Austria is going to be in a pretty decent position despite losing all those probes there. However, it's still scary because Lambo right now has a lot of roaches. This army supply heavily favors now. Of course, roaches does inflate the supply, so that is a little bit deceiving there. But now, this time around, the queens will be joining up now. It's important to note there are no creep for those queens to transfuse one another.
Right. Okay, so they're going to break down the natural wall. They're going to start working on that pylon. Lings are going to start taking care of a lot of those probes over in the natural base, chasing up onto the high ground as well. Archons and Stalkers are holding strong at the top of the ramp, retreating periodically back to the safety of the shield battery, which is an excellent move. These roaches and Ravagers. Okay, am I crazy or are those roaches slow? I don't think they have speed.
Yeah, they don't have roach speed there, so...
Wow. This is the most all-in of all-ins. If Lambo doesn't kill Astrea right here, I think it could spell disaster in the future. a decent disruptor hit, so now disruptors are out on the field. Gateways are being taken care of, but these stalkers are still doing good damage. They're kiting back against the lings and the roaches and the ravagers. This is a long fight. I can't really tell who's winning.
Oh man, the supply does suggest Lambo, but despite all that damage, I mean, Astrea still even up on the worker count. Now, it's unfortunate for him that he did lose the second Nexus. But maybe with the defender's advantage, he can clean up the rest of the roaches and ravagers and then just go for a counter and then make up for that lost Nexus. Here we go. These slow zealots trying to chase down slow roaches. Oh wow.
Oh, this is amazing. But it will end up going in favor of Astrea in this final fight simply because stalkers, they're pretty quick on their own and they're even quicker with blinks, so they will start chasing all the way back across the map, and it's going to be a very interesting sort of +2 timing counterattack. I love this game. This is amazing. Like, there is so much going on. I mean, both players have taken so much damage. Astrea with the blinks, dodging those corrosive vials once again, kiting back against the roaches, and look at this, Disruptor is going to join the fray. Is it going to get a good shot off on the roaches? Ooh. Oh, stop the madness. This is too much.
Well, there you have it. You got slow roaches. I mean, despite sitting on top of creep, giving that extra boost, speed boost, slow roaches quite difficult to kite against disruptors.
Man, this is just non-stop anti-roach ravager action from Astrea. This is also non-stop corrosive bile action from Lambo. But I think he knows. You can kind of tell the look on his face, right? He knows what's up. He knows that he probably just lost the game. He came so close to breaking Astrea's defense and finally taking a game, but it's going to be Astrea bringing Alpha X up to 6-0.